Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells. I'm your host, and today's episode, we will be discussing shadows on the wall. Have you ever been in a place where you were just trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel? Well, if that speaks to you, then you won't want to miss today's conversation. Please stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells. It's a place where we're going to have honest conversations that reframe reality, empower vision, activate faith, and liberate legacy. I'll see you then.
Strategically Inspired Solutions is your source for personal and professional development services. Our dedicated team of transformational coaches, speakers, and consultants know how to drive innovation and deliver high-impact results. In our one-on-one or group coaching programs, you will discover and design the authentic life you have always desired. Strategically Inspired Solutions also offers comprehensive consulting services to small, mid-size, and large firms. We invite you to join our family of clients and partners by visiting our website at www.SISMotivation.com. We look forward to working with you in creating a newfound purpose, vision, and energy for yourself, your company, and within your communities.
Thank you for staying tuned. And now, before we jump into our conversation, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our partners: Strategically Inspired Solutions, The Listening Tree, Faith, Strength, Jewels Boutique, and Griff Tours. I would encourage you to go to our website at drrollinsfells.com, go to the Real Talk page, and make sure that you support those who are supporting us in this journey. Welcome back, Real Talk family. And today we have a very special guest joining us for our discussion on shadows on the wall. And that is none other than Sabrina Page, the founder and CEO of Strategically Inspired Solutions. Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Sabrina, you are known for your motivational speaking. You are known for your life coaching skills. And so when we looked at discussing a topic such as this, you were the perfect person to come to mind.
Thank you.
I think that our audience is going to be in for a real treat as we look at some real definitions and some real structure to this topic today. And so I want to say thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I have had moments in my life where I felt like the world was just closing in on me. I felt like there were walls, almost like a tunnel, as if I was in an Indiana Jones movie. And here I am trying to navigate with my one single candlestick, that my only hope of flame of light. And as I'm making this journey through whatever that challenge happened to be, there seemed to be some hope and some positivity. But I can distinctly remember a time where I also felt like the light that I was carrying was casting shadows on the wall. And those shadows were very scary to me. They were things that kept me up at night. They were the thoughts that I kept rehearsing. It was the movie that literally played across my forehead, where I could tell you where I was, what the temperature was outside, what the cloud formation was looking like, what outfit I had on, what I ate for breakfast. You know that rut that you get in when you're rehearsing your pain?
Yes, absolutely.
Those things were the shadows on my wall. And so, Sabrina, I know that I'm not the only person who has had that experience with this replay going. And so today, I need your help as we have this honest conversation to help reframe reality and empower our listeners today.
Absolutely. Joanna, your story rings true to so many out there. I mean, a lot of times that we have so many things on our minds that it becomes overwhelming, right?
Mhm.
And then we become in a space in which there are barriers that are in our way. So a shadow it's when there is a shadow is created when there's an object or a barrier that's blocking rays of light, right? And then you see that shadow on the wall or on a surface, right? But the shadow on the wall represents three key elements as we talk about this today and really dissect what each of those elements mean.
Can
So
you define that for us, Sabrina?
absolutely. So the shadow represents darkness or a consistent reminder of a distorted image. So if you've ever seen your shadow, your shadow may look larger than you. It may look smaller than you. It's dark. Um, and it follows you every day, right? And a lot of times we don't really pay attention to the shadow, but in this particular scenario, we want to really focus in on the shadow being the darkness and the distorted image that we see within
Mhm.
ourselves. Okay. Number two, the object or barrier. It represents the person. It represents the person. That person is you. That person is me. That person is the individual that we're talking to. Um, it also represents people. So your family, your friends, your significant other. Unfortunately, in our life today, we do have, not only are we barriers to move forward, but we have our family and we have people that surround us that are in our circle. And we have people that we live with that sometimes become barriers for you to move forward towards the light.
Mhm.
And thirdly, there are situations. And the situations, a mental and emotional roadblock that has kept us from moving forward, such as fear, self doubt, insecurity. It could be many things that may have happened to us in our past that is keeping us at a stall, that's making us feel stuck, right? So, those three components, the shadow, which represents darkness and the distorted image, the object or barrier, which could be you, other people in your life, or your mental emotional state, stop us from going to the light, which brings me to the third thing. The light represents all things that bring you joy, happiness, love, life, positivity, passion, success. I can go on and on and on about what that light brings us. And many times we see glimmers of that light, but we're so stuck at the barrier where it's hard for us to figure out how do we break down these barriers in order to move towards that place where you feel that joy and that happiness, that love, that positivity, and that passion.
That is
So
so good. I love how you've defined that and you've given some concrete operational definitions, or to say it in plain speak, you have given us three different components that we can clearly identify with. And so when we come back from our commercial break, we are going to take a deep dive into what those barriers could look like, because I know that for me and for so many others, we don't want to be paralyzed by the distorted image. And I love that you use that as the definition. And so, Sabrina, when we come back, we want to take a deep dive into that. And then at the end of the show, we are going to have some very specific self-reflection questions for everyone to consider and to continue the conversation even after the show is over. And so thank you for defining it in that way. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Talk family, thank you for staying tuned. We are back and we are going to continue our conversation with Sabrina Page with Strategically Inspired Solutions. And so Sabrina, before we left for break, we were talking about the shadow and defining the different elements of it. And one thing that you said that was really profound to me was that the shadow really is a distorted image. Let's talk more about that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about the shadow, and I said it's a distorted image. A lot of times when you see a shadow looks very different. If you're seeing a shadow of yourself, it looks very different than really who you are, right? And a lot of times, and what that means is that mentally, sometimes we see ourselves differently than what the outside world sees us. And that plays into or from our insecurities and our self-doubt. And the reality is that when we really take those blinders off and we truly look at ourselves and love ourselves, then that distorted image becomes you. It becomes the image of what you see in the mirror. It becomes an image of someone that you love. Imperfection, perfection, who you are, that's who God created you to be, right? Yeah. So the representation of the distorted image of in the shadow, it's a way of describing just the darkness that you may feel and the way that you see yourself now. But when you break through those barriers towards that light, I guarantee you'll begin to see yourself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. What came to my mind when you were talking just now is an incident that I had just a couple of weeks ago where I had put my son to bed and we had his Buzz Lightyear night lamp. And I put my hands over the lamp like this, and we were doing shadow puppets. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was fun until I saw the son's face, and he was terrified because when I looked on the ceiling, my hands were huge. And I realized they looked like monsters. It looked like dinosaurs, not friendly things. And I thought, man, when you said that just now, that really happened. He had a distorted view of what the reality was. It was just my hands that are this big, not this big handprint on the ceiling. And so I very quickly had to reframe it to being a mommy dinosaur and a baby dinosaur and mommy tucking him in and snuggling, because I had to reframe the reality because the shadow on the wall was scary. It was
absolutely. And see what I heard that you did was that through your words, you were able to help change the mindset of really describing and explaining, right? So that he could actually see the reality of mommy's hands. And it's really not this big monster, which was the distorted image that we sometimes automatically see, right? So yeah, great job with that.
Can you talk some more now about the barriers? The barriers as that second definition.
Yeah. So barriers, I work with a lot of individuals and everyone has unique barriers depending on their situation. And barriers could be called roadblocks, could be called obstacles, right? A lot of times, the barriers are, when I talked about the barriers in this particular scenario being more of an emotional and mental perspective, please understand that barriers can also be situations or issues that you're facing in your life that are not necessarily mental or emotional, but I wanted to hone in on the mental and emotional barriers, right? So here, when we talk about the barriers and breaking those barriers down, it's in reference to our insecurities and our self-doubt, right? So you see this distorted image, you want to get to the light, which is passion and love and, success and all of these things that, you really want to get to, but you have these barriers in your way. You have these mental barriers in your way, emotional barriers in your way, insecurities, self-doubt. I know a lot of you, because I've done it, said, I wish I could. I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have jumped out of that plane. I wish I could speak in front of thousands of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of people think and before making a decision or a choice about their own life is, what would people say if I do?
Yeah.
What would people say if they see me doing this? Right? But you have to remember, you are living your life, not theirs. You're living your life, your reality, not their reality. And it's hard. This is a tough one because sometimes it's ingrained in us to worry about what other people say or think. As long as you're respectful and that you're making decisions and choices on your own, live your life, not their reality.
That is so good right there. And to all of our Real Talk family viewers, I know that you must be nodding your head and saying, and really identifying with what Sabrina has just talked about, because we're all human. And
Right.
it's not just that our children need that pep talk to say, don't worry about what people are going to say and what people are going to think. That is a life challenge that no matter how old you are, what place you're in, it can have a tendency to creep back up. And so thank you, Sabrina, for bringing up that point. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we are going to have a continued conversation about this, and then we're going to look at some self-reflection questions to really help empower you on today's episode of Real Talk. Stay tuned. We will be right back. And now we are back with Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells and my very special guest today, Sabrina Page with Strategically Inspired Solutions. If you are just joining us, we have been talking about the shadows on the wall. Sabrina, before we went out to break, you were giving some framework around self-doubt and really looking at the barriers and fear and what if people say this and what if I'm not good enough. I wish I could, the shoulda, woulda, coulda, had a mentality. And I wanted to bring us back with this quote that I found. And it says, it's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you are not.
Absolutely. That is so true. That is so true. That's so true. A lot of times, and that goes back to, when we talk about the insecurities and self-doubt, it's unfortunate that a lot of us have, we've gone through our lives and there's so many different people in this world that some celebrate you, but some really, they try to bring you down. And unfortunately, at times we have, when they do that, and I don't think it's intentional for a lot of people, right? But when they do that, sometimes it hits home, it hurts, and we stay within that. We stay within that pain. We stay within those words, right? And then at that point, it becomes an emotional and mental roadblock. And it's up to us to move past that.
You're so right. One of the things that the brain research tells us is that emotional memory is profound in how it
Yes.
is stored and just how your mind can recall things that are attached to emotion much more readily than it can attach to anything else. And that is why I know for me and for so many people, when you're dealing with that tunnel situation, that you replay that movie in your mind. And it was no exaggeration to say, I remember what I had on. I remember what the weather was that day. I remember where I was. Think about, traumatic events in history. Where were you when
Yeah.
JFK was shot? Where were you
Yeah.
when Martin Luther King was assassinated? Where were you
Yeah.
when the Challenger exploded? What were you doing when you heard the tragic news of Kobe Bryant and all those that perished in that helicopter? It is something
Absolutely.
that we're able to recall because there's an emotional attachment to it. And so I think you hit that right on the head. Um, and so one of the things that I would encourage all of our viewers to be mindful of is that we have to be able to look at some sort of way to compartmentalize these things in order to flip the script on it and to be free from it. So you've talked about that the shadow itself represents the darkness, that the barrier could be the person themselves or other people, that could be family members. It could be
Yeah.
coworkers. It could be people who you were friends with at one season in life and are not anymore. And a
Right.
point that I wanted to make here that piggybacks on your comment is that my mom always taught us to recognize the difference between being celebrated and being tolerated. And they are
That's a
not the
great point.
same.
That's right. That's right. That's a great point. And it's and it's fantastic when you as an individual can recognize the difference, right?
And
So
not to be mad about it, because I think that's a
yeah,
place of growth too. That can make you bitter when you start seeing the difference, but becoming
absolutely.
comfortable enough with your own voice and your authentic self, as I
Mhm.
know that you are an excellent coach with getting to the core of your authentic self and recognizing that I am who I am. It may be for some people, and for others, maybe not so much so. And it's okay that I'm celebrated in this environment and I'm tolerated in this, but I have the choice of where I devote my energy and my time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right on point.
So, as we enter into the last few moments, Sabrina, we always want to make sure that we do the self work. And so, do you have some questions that the audience can ponder on um, in terms of self reflection that will help them along this way and demystify the scariness of the shadows on the wall?
Absolutely. Without that, I would not be doing my job, right? So I want to say that, first of all, I want all of you to know that you were made with unique talents, characteristics, and the freedom to choose and make decisions for designing your own magnificent life, right? So we talked about the shadow, we talked about barriers, but in order to move towards the light, I want to ask you to reflect and document these three things. Number one, ask yourself, at what point in your life did you begin to live in paralyzing fear? Not fear, not just fear, because we're all fearful. It's okay to be scared. I am talking about paralyzing fear instead of faith. At what point in your life did you begin to live in paralyzing fear instead of faith? I want you to write that down. I want you to reflect on that and ask yourself that question. Number 2, who or what instilled a sense of self-doubt and insecurities in you so much that you started to believe it? And that's a tough one, because that's me. They may bring up some pain, right? But that's what's going to take you outside of your comfort zone. And that's what's going to take you towards the next step towards the light, is to become uncomfortable, to become in a situation where you feel. So I want you to ask number 2 again. Who or what instilled a sense of self-doubt and insecurities in you so much that you started to believe it? And number 3, I want you to document the moments when you were fearless, when you were curious, when you were happy, when you were free, when you knew who you were, when you had your own individuality and you didn't like certain things just because your significant other liked those things, and you didn't do certain things because your friends wanted to do those things. Write them down. Write down those moments. I want to know who was there. What were you doing? Where were you? And how were you feeling? Again, document the moments when you were fearless, when you were curious, when you were happy, when you were free. Who was there? What were you doing? Where were you? And how were you really feeling?
I'm over here taking notes. I have a pen, everyone. I am taking notes. Sabrina, those are very specific and intentional questions.
Absolutely.
And so for our viewers who may want to follow up or have really connected with the show today and want to have some continued conversation, how can they reach you?
Oh, yes. So actually, that's great, because I am so passionate about this. And Dr. Rollins Fells, if I can ask you to put these questions on your website, just for those who may not have had a pen or pencil or been able to write them down,
Sure.
because I am going to offer 3 of your viewers a 30-minute complimentary consultation session with me if they send their responses. If they send their responses to my email address at spage@SISMotivation.com. So if you do the work, I want to help you. I want to help you to get to the light. And so I want to make sure that you send those responses to me. It's not just for me, it's for you. Trust me, even if as you start to think through these questions, it'll be just rewarding and inspiring as you work through this. And you're going to see some changes. You're going to have some ahas. But for 3 lucky viewers of Real Talk, I want to sit down with them for 30 minutes, complimentary, and walk through this journey with them.
That is so awesome. Thank you, Sabrina, for just sharing your talent and your heart with the viewers here. And so for everyone listening, one of the things that I made a commitment from my very first show was to get on this set people who had passion, who have purpose, who have talent, and who have a skill set and a heart to help. And Sabrina is doing that. And thank you so much for offering some coaching sessions for 3 of our viewers. And so could you repeat your email address again for everyone?
Absolutely. So my email address is spage@SISMotivation.com, or you can go to my website, at www.SISMotivation.com. That might be easier, right? So,
That's all right.
yeah.
We'll have multiple ways of connecting you. And for everyone,
Absolutely.
if you go to my website, there will be a link there as well where I've highlighted all of the sponsors for our show for Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells. Sabrina, thank you so much for your time today, for your heart, and for your insight and perspective as we partner together to transform lives all around the world. This has been Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells. Before we go, I'd like to have our celebration segment. Today's celebration is to honor and recognize all of our healthcare workers who are working tirelessly to make sure to provide healing hands and helpful hands to everyone around this nation. Thank you also to our local grocery store workers, our garbage men, our mail carriers, all service providers. I want to take a moment on this show to say, I see you and I appreciate all that you do. Until next time, please be safe, be blessed, and know that all things are possible when you reframe your reality, empower your vision, activate your faith, and liberate your legacy.